Glorious food. Oh, yes, we all know what musical that comes from. And we can all see that little boy holding that bowl up saying, "Can I have some more, please?" Well, the reason I picked food as our reflection for today, well, simply this morning I've been up to Lowson Memorial Church here in Forfar and delivered a huge bootful of food that two of my members arrived at the door with. And they are now up with Lowson for their food programme, which is absolutely super. And it's something we do every week in church. A bag or two bags come in and we just build it up over a couple of weeks, and then we take it up to Lowson Memorial Food Programme. So I thought that's one of the reasons. But the second reason that I picked this topic for today is because I've just recently finished the £1 per day challenge of eating and drinking for £1 a day, or £7 a week. Or if you're including Billy, which he did do it, means £14 for the two of us. And I must admit, it worked out better than I thought, and easier because there was two of us doing it. I think it would be more difficult just with one person doing it. But I thought I would tell you just a little bit more about that. So, what did we do? Well, we had lots of vegetables because I made a huge pot of homemade soup, and then I used ham joint for the stock, which then meant I didn't have to buy stock cubes and things, and there were some vegetables left over and I put them in the mince that I had bought, and we bought a bag of potatoes, and yeah, so porridge, yeah, porridge is fine the way I normally have it, but with water, not so good. Tea bags, my tea bag lasted me 3 mugs of tea, so one tea bag, 3 mugs of tea. And I would say that the time that we were most hungry was between lunch and dinner. That's when sort of a hunger pangs started, round about 3:30, maybe 4 o'clock. So to stave off that, the easiest option was just to have water. Lots and lots of water were drunk all week long, and that staved off some of those hunger pangs. But there was lots of things we didn't have. For example, we didn't have enough money to buy fruit. So we'd no fruit in our diet for a week. Bread was okay because you can get a loaf, well, we got ours in Asda for 49p. And we bought the thick slices, hoping that would make us feel a bit fuller. And that was only 49p. And we had 1.5 slices per day. So we budgeted our money, and I pre-planned what we were going to be having to eat so that nothing was left to chance. However, one day I had a bit of bread. I used it for toast and I burnt it, and I don't like burnt toast, so I had to go without. So had I been really, really hungry though, I'd have eaten that toast, I think. Anyway, so I'll just give you a little background of some of the things that we did. What I would also say to you is that our food recycling bin was empty, because everything we made, and because we were hungry, we cleared every morsel off of our plates, breakfast, lunch and dinner, and we didn't eat in between any of these meals, and all we had was water normally. And then later on in the day, because I was reusing my tea bag, I could get an extra cup of tea. So yeah, the recycling food waste was empty, and I've never done that before. So there is real good points to this because I budgeted, I planned ahead, the recycling was empty. Other than not having fruit with lots of veg, but again, that was just in the soup. And the carrots and things from the soup that I didn't use went into the mince. But I couldn't afford any other vegetables. Anyway, long story cut short, we had £14 between us. We spent £13.80 for a week's worth of food. I am super impressed with myself for that. So that meant I was 20p under budget, but let's call it even, okay? So I then worked out what our normally weekly shopping bill is, and it works out roughly at £55 on average. Sometimes it can be more, sometimes a little less. So I've gone for £55. I then deducted the £14 that we spent, which left a grand total of £41. And I've now given £41 to our church treasurer. One of our other ladies, Lexi, She came into church on Sunday and she had finished hers, but she did admit that one of the days she lost the will to live with it and just splurged out. So she has given us a £30 donation towards the food programme as well. And then I've just had a phone call from someone from Lowson Memorial who was joining us, Sheila. Sheila joined us in this challenge, and Sheila also has worked out and she's rounded it up to £30 as well. So that's 41, 30, 30, and I'm still waiting on a couple of more coming in. But hopefully some more donations will come in as well, because it's all going to the Lowson Memorial Food Programme. So we hope that if you're listening to this, just bring some money into church on Sunday if you're coming. We'll have a donation bowl out, or let me know and send me some money to help people in need at this time. So let's just hear how somebody else got on.
Our £1 a day challenge. I can say that Bob and I kept to our budget, and it was very interesting to work out separate costings, like how much flour, sugar, things like that. Breakfast and lunch were fairly simple because we had cereal every breakfast and we had soup every lunchtime with a couple of crackers. I had made a big pot of soup at the beginning of the week and it did last us for the whole 7 days. Evening meals were a bit more challenging. We started off the week having chicken and we ended up the week having beans on toast and poached egg or omelette egg, which was absolutely fine. If I had been able to browse in the supermarket, I think I could probably have saved even more money. But I have to say that potatoes were a boon during this week. We probably had potatoes nearly every day. The only day Bob went over his £1 limit was when he had a yoghurt for his lunch one day, which cost him 45p, which was almost half of his daily ration. It did become pretty boring, I have to say, but I can honestly say I was never hungry, but I did feel a bit hard done by because I wasn't able to have my favourite food.
Last Monday we started the challenge and I found the first day really quite tricky. The idea of sticking to a menu and not having my usual meals. Each day of the week I missed my dessert, I must say, whether a fresh dessert or a tinned peaches or whatever. Also during the week I had to think twice about having fresh fruit. Even chopping up a banana and putting it into my cereal, it's going to cost me 10p each time I did it. I missed my fish. We like salmon maybe once a week, once every 10 days, and it just, a portion of that would have put me way over my limit. The idea of counting out money as to what I could have for my supper each night, I found that quite tricky. Drunk a lot of water and juice during the week, but all in all, a worthwhile project, and it just showed you how hard it is to stick to a tight budget.
This challenge that we undertook, the £1 a day, it was hard, it was tough, but when we entered into the spirit of it, we thought, oh, this will be a bit of fun and something different to do. But it really made me stop. It really did. It made me stop and think of those who are less fortunate than us. I don't know if you've ever really felt hungry. Now, we weren't hungry, but we had hunger pangs. So what would it be like not to know where your next bit of food was coming from? What would it be like, for example, had I been really hungry, well, I'd have just gone and made something else. Or I would have gone to the shops and bought something. And then I'd pay the penalty of going over the £14 for doing that. Now, I can do that, but millions of people can't even do that. So we were only doing it really half-heartedly because we knew we could stop at any time we wanted to. But think of those who can't. What if, well, I think I said to you that I filled myself with water, didn't I, when I was hungry. Aren't we blessed to have clean water? What if I couldn't have done that and I just had these hunger pangs in my stomach? What would be the long-term health issues of not eating a balanced diet? Because last week it certainly wasn't a balanced diet that Billy and I had. It was relatively okay, but as I said, no fresh fruit, no veg other than carrots, turnips and leeks, and potatoes. But they don't really count, do they, as a healthy diet? But, so what if, it really made me stop and think of all these issues. Now, God calls us to help our neighbours. God calls us to support one another. And that's what we are doing through this whole programme. We're helping those less fortunate. And I most certainly do support the charities and the organisations that run the food programmes. There is a couple of food programmes in Forfar, and I know there's loads all over Britain and across the world. And I am wholeheartedly behind that system. But isn't it a sad state of affairs that it's still happening today in the 21st century? That image of Oliver just keeps coming back to my mind. So as I said, God tells us to care for our neighbours, to help those less fortunate than ourselves. And as people of faith, we do try to do that. But as I keep telling people, we can always do more. We can always do better. However, when I was thinking about this, when I stopped and thought about it all, I believe more needs to be done. If food is being handed out for free, how are people ever going to learn how to budget their money? If food is being handed out free, again, how can they learn? Because it's mostly ready-made food that's handed out. So how do people learn to make things from scratch, to bulk meals up that you can then share with a whole family, and maybe a meal that can last 2 days rather than 1 day? So in East and Old, over the last few years, probably the last 2 years, we offered a programme where if anybody needed help budgeting their income, we would be there to help them. Well, there was zero take-up on that offer. We then ran a programme for quite a few months where we would teach you how to make a homemade pot of soup that was healthy and would last numerous meals rather than just buying a tin of soup. We also offered how to bulk up your stew or your mince, how to cook them, learn how to cook them and also bulk them up. And we had, I would say, a little take-up. I would also say it was a poor take-up. Nobody was interested in learning these skills. And that's fine if they don't want to do that. But we need to be doing more than just handing out free food. We have to do it in multiple ways. As I said, we have to hand out the food. Yes, I wholeheartedly agree with that, giving food to the food organisations because it is needed. But we really need to help people budget their money. We really need to help them learn how to cook from scratch. Like I said, a casserole or a homemade soup or anything like that that's going to help them. We need to do that. But it's how do we get people interested enough to do that? And as people of faith, well, we should always be in standby to help them do that. But it's finding out how to do that. And that is one of the problems. If you have any better ideas than we do, then I would love to hear about them. So in finishing off for today's little reflection, I firmly believe we do need to still help others. So I'm asking you, especially in this time of goodwill, of rejoicing, of spreading the good news of Christ's birth, of baby Jesus coming into this world, the good news is if we can help others. I've certainly not spent as much money through the whole of this year in the lockdown period, and I'm pretty sure most of you will be the same. For those of you whose income hasn't been affected by either job losses or furloughs or whatever scheme that's running. So yeah, remember we take food in every week at the church. So please drop some food into us or drop it into our kirk shop and show support to others, especially at this time when there is abundance abound. We thank God. We thank God today for the food donations that individuals give. We thank God for the organisations who run all the food programmes. But we also thank God for those organisations and companies who also donate vast amounts of food to the food programmes also. I wish you a very blessed week. God bless everyone.